Wonderful viewers, I gladly welcome you again to another episode of the Ambassadors on Dove Television. My name is Mike Adekunle. The issue of food scarcity across the globe has become an issue that is at the front burner of every government and government leadership. Especially in Nigeria, the president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, declared a state of emergency just recently on the issue of food security. And needless to mention is the removal of the subsidy, which has brought a whole lot of issues on the populace. And removing subsidy has also aggravated the prices of commodity, even in the market. Aside that, WHO has also just declared that the food security and food scarcity has become serious issues across the globe, because several nations, even in Africa here, especially West Africa here, are even depending on the wheat coming from Russia. All these had come up to be issues that needed all of us to pay attention. And you know what? Because you are part of this country, you are part of this world, and there is no one that is living that is not eating. Eating and food, of course, is part of the characteristics of every living thing. So because it's an issue, then it has become an issue to be discussed. And today on the program, we have an expert in agriculture who has come with a whole lot of, work and projects to show for his ability and his own bit in making sure that we have food enough, even in the market, across Nigeria. I'm being joined with Pastor Alex Tapere, who is the National Director for Redeemed Extensive Agricultural Program, REAP, domicile here at the Redemption City of God. Good to have you, and we are so glad to hear a whole lot you've been doing to the glory of God.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'd like you to please give us a sense of who you are. Were you trained as an agriculturist, and how did you come about being an agriculturist right now? Did you study that? Were you trained as such? And now you are a director of this project that Redeem is championing. Please tell us more about you and your programs.
All right, thank you very much. I wasn't trained as an agriculturist.
Okay.
In fact, I was trained as a quantity surveyor.
Okay.
I studied quantity surveying from the university. But I remember in the year 1998, just trying to, as a young man coming up, I wanted to really know what God would want me to do. Okay. So I thought it within myself to seek the face of God on what to do. Even though growing up, I used to have flair for farming. Okay. I remember as a young boy, I tried my hands on planting maize by the side of our house. But I always find out that goats end up eating up the maize. I will make some fence around it, use some wood. But because I was small, the wood will not be so strong. At the blow of a little wind, it will collapse. I'll go around picking goat poo-poo, soak it in water, splash it on the maize so that it will end up. I was just doing that as a young boy, so I didn't really put so much of value on it until 1998, when I actually saw by revelation that there was going to be a food crisis. I saw, and I know if I say God speaks, that won't be strange to you.
Definitely.
And God told me there's famine coming, that I should go into food production. Without any background knowledge of food production, I remember at the back of my father's house, there's an half plot of land there. The first vision, the revelation I saw was a fish farm. So without, because I didn't have so much money, so I had to dig a small pond. I dug it myself at the back of the house, and got some fingerlings, put them there. And that was how the journey started. So I started out with fish farm. And while I was on campus, when I was in school, I was still in school then, I was just trying to lay my hands. There was a whole lot of struggle because I couldn't afford to really go into feeding them the way they should. But I was just pushing on, until when I left school, and I stayed with it because it was now no more just something I'm doing.
Something you play around with.
Yes, I see it as an important part of my life. So I moved out of fish farming. I didn't move out. I graduated into some other stuffs. I went into cassava. Okay. And at that time, I couldn't afford processing because I didn't want to do raw. I had some little brain in my head to realize that one of the dilemma of Africa is that all we produce them raw and we sell them raw. Okay. So we
don't take them through processing.
Yes, we don't add value. Yeah. So I plant cassava, take it to processors who convert them to gari for me. Okay. Then gradually I got some land, about 20 acres, and that pushed us into cash crops. I started doing cocoa. Okay. I got some cocoa with the land. I pruned them, and they were all there, but they came out. They came back to life. So I started planting more, went to planting, into palm tree plantation. Then we started producing palm oil because I got a processing plant of it. So after removing the palm oil, I had the shells removed, I have a sheller, removed the knot, extract them. So I got crushers. So I started removing the oil from the knot to give me palm kernel oil. Okay. So when I started getting the palm kernel oil, I found out that I already have palm kernel cake. So that made me like, okay, animals does eat that. So I went to piggery. Oh. So I started feeding my pigs. And at that time, we started producing gari. So after you've done all your gari, the peels and the waste, instead of me wasting them, they became food for my pigs. So we started doing pigs. At the time, we went into cowrie, goatry, started doing maize, vegetables.
And on and on and on. And now, fast forward to this time, your background very fascinating, and that perhaps could, also assist somebody watching us right now. Yeah. Whether you are told or not, whether by revelation or by news, by whatever, everybody now should know that there is issue on food. There is famine right now. So going to agriculture should be something everybody should start, getting into right now. Fast forward to now. Now, talking about those cash crops, how many stands do you have right now? or in acres and hectares of land?
All right. Personally, I have about 150, but the farm we're working on right now is over 1,000 hectares. That's about 2,500 hectares. We're doing about 100 hectares cashew plantation, somewhere in Ogun State, towards the boundary. Okay. And we started that 5 years ago, and we've planted over 10,000 stands. Planting is different from establishment. You can plant, and you still need to ensure that they're able to sustain, because at the early stage, they're susceptible to all kinds of things. So you have to ensure. Establishment is ensuring that the crop you plant, because they are cash crops, they survive. So we're doing over 8,000, and we're still trusting God for more, because with that we can't even feed a percentage of the population.
Let's speak to the program you direct with RCCG. So how is REAP, Redeemed Extensive Agricultural Project?
Redeemed Extensive Agricultural Project is a brainchild of the Young Adult and Youth Affairs of the Redeemed Christian Church of God. Initiative of our then is our interconnected youth pastor now. Then it was our national youth pastor, Pastor Belemina Obunge. Okay. We started out by training people on fish farming. I started training them on breeding. Okay. So we're using awkward places where people never thought you could breed fishes, and it was working. So we had a discussion, and we can make this a program that will go beyond just fish into other aspects of agriculture. And because that has been a vision and a passion that he found that I could drive it. So we came on board to direct the whole thing, and we started out. Right now, with the support of our daddy, our extreme father in the Lord, and Mommy Gio, right on camp now, we have rice processing mill. We process rice. Okay. We process gari. We do massive vegetable plantation. We have greenhouses where we are producing all kind of bell pepper, yellow, orange, red, green. And we are also, because we find out that one of the challenge of agriculture is that we have farmers, but we don't have agripreneurs. Okay. Now,
please tell us more.
Okay. Now, a farmer is someone who plants crops and grow it, while an agripreneur is someone who makes an enterprise out of farming. Okay. Now, the sustainability of
Which
agriculture.
one are you? Are you a
I'm
farmer?
an agripreneur.
Agripreneur.
It's a combination of both.
Okay.
You know, because if you look at the work of an entrepreneur, it's just the same way with the work of an agripreneur. An entrepreneur combines all the other factors of production together to make a sense out of it. Land, labor, capital. Okay. Entrepreneur. He is the one who manages the three to produce result. Okay. So also in agriculture, we have land, we have labor, and we have capital. And interestingly, agriculture requires huge funding. So for you to be able to sustain agriculture and move it to the next level, not just the subsistent level, you have to make an enterprise out of it. And making an enterprise out of it means that you are not just planting and growing crops, you are making profit. Okay. You know, so if you're not an agripreneur, then you will be planting crops. At the end of the day, by the time you harvest, you get result. Okay. But you will not be satisfied because your result will not be able to cover for your cost of production. And then when you are getting result that cannot cover your cost of production, talk less of giving you profit. The business will decline or depreciate. It becomes frustrating because wherever you are getting the fund from, at a point you just find out that there is no fund coming from there anymore because you are meant to be sustained, stabilized by the fund and begin to generate revenue on your own. Okay. You know, so, and that's one of the reasons why I believe that to some level, those that have gone to school, and that's why I differ from the mindset that agriculture is for the illiterate or those who don't have any option, doesn't have any alternative. The mindset over the years has been that those who are in agriculture are those who don't have alternatives. Yeah. They can't get a job in the bank, they can't get a job in the oil company or insurance and all of that, so they opt out for farming. No, farming should be an intentional profession, that someone who understands the importance. Because if we have been intentional, we won't be talking about what we're talking about now. We won't be talking about food insecurity, we won't be talking about food scarcity. It means that the food that we're producing is not enough to feed us.
That's what it means.
And that implies that the number of people that are producing, they are not sufficient enough to produce what will be able to sustain us as a people. And that is the world issue, not only Nigerian factor, not only an African factor.
Now, as I said earlier, the government, the president right now declared state of emergency on that issue of, food security. Now, what do you think government should be doing right now as a matter of urgency to making sure that we have food enough, in the market? Now,
thank you very much. The government should begin to think about how to encourage people into agriculture, not just by telling them. A lot of people, a lot of young folks wants to come into farming. Let's talk about Southwest. Okay. Southwest has a lot of graduates, a lot of folks. And interestingly, Southwest have a lot of land area. But there's something about Southwest. Southwest is a rainforest environment. Yeah. Meaning that we have thick vegetation. That you can't use hoe and cutlasses or cows to drive your implement like it's being done in the north. The north is savanna. You can travel kilometers without seeing trees. All of them plain ground. All they need is just to hang a plow around 2 cows and drag it. They will plant. But you can't do that in Southwest. You have large mahogany, Iroko, all of those massive trees to deal with. You need equipment. You need bulldozers. And these are not cheap equipment. I think that the government should begin to think about partnering. I'm not saying government should buy bulldozer. Because there's a mistake the government has been making. I'm sorry I have to say this. Government doesn't have any business doing business. The business of the government should be to create an enabling environment for business to thrive. Yeah. You understand? Because if you say government go and buy bulldozers and you hand over the bulldozers to civil servants, you are going to get into trouble. Because civil servants are not equipment owners. They are not into equipment leasing. Even if you employ someone who has understanding of mechanics, the moment he gets into civil service, he becomes a civil servant. Yeah. Now, the government should encourage, support, make funds available to equipment leasing companies. Support them to bring bulldozers in. Find a way of reducing the tax on the import duty. On the importation of these things. As far as for agricultural product, tractors, heavy equipment, let's remove the import, let's reduce the import. I'm not saying government should not make money out of that. It's part of where the government generates money. But let's reduce the import duties. Let them bring in bulldozers. Let them bring in tractors. Now, let the government represent farmers in a relationship with this equipment lease company. Now, let them, state government have land, they have control. Land can be carried away by anybody. But let's convert this forest to food. Now, let's clear large acreage of land. Yeah. The equipment companies are going to clear it. There's a way we can measure. After they have cleared, now, let us not just hand over to those who are interested. Let us be intentional about training. There's an assumption that anybody can be a farmer because it's an intuitive thing. Okay. But not everybody can be an agripreneur. You can put seed in the ground, rain will fall, definitely. The sun will, it will grow. Sure. But making profit out of it requires a whole lot of knowledge. You need to know what agronomic practice is all about. Now, as this forest is being opened, let there be extension officers who have the understanding, practical understanding.
Extension officers.
Yes. Yeah. Because in those days, we used to have extension officers, but now it's just...
Where are they?
Where are they? Let them be stationed in all of these places. Call them farm settlement. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So in this farm settlement, let there be extension workers. Let each extension workers have some number of young guys who are interested under him as trainees.
But are you saying government has not been doing this before? And I'd like you to connect this with the issue of anchor borrowers of the CBN project, you know, in the last administration. What was the output or the result of such a program?
You know, anchor borrower is a fantastic program. But you see, you don't borrow a queue from you know, there are three different categories of nations in the world. Okay. We have developed nation. Okay. We have developing nation, and we have underdeveloped nation. You can't, as an underdeveloped nation, borrow a cue from a developed nation to integrate into your own system. Okay. Now, anchor borrower, Malaysia doing fantastically well. America doing fantastically well. What's the idea behind anchor borrower? Let's pull the farmers together. Let's give them funds so that they can produce. America has been supporting farmers. Malaysia has been supporting farmers. But you see, you don't support a farmer that have not been stabilized. The way, okay, look at it. You are giving a farmer money. For example, that was part of what happened then. Yes. You gave them money to tractorize. Tractorization. And you gave them money for seed. And you gave them money for fertilizer. But the farmer you gave money to tractorize has a forest on his farm that tractors cannot get to. It was not meant to be giving money for tractorization first and foremost. It was meant to be giving money for deforestation. Okay. Deforestation means bring down the heavy shrub on your farm. Yeah. Especially in Southwest. In the North, you might find out that a number of them will work with there. But in Southwest, that's where we are going to have more of the failures. Because, okay, the tractor is coming to a farmer's farm. The money was not given, a tractor company was giving money. By the time he got to the where's your farm? He find out that his tractor cannot go, and he has collected the money. Who will refund the money back? So some of the things we do, we don't do proper study. We don't do proper underground work. Okay. And that's why this anchor borrower should not be handled by civil servants. It should be handled by farmers. Those who are on the field, who has the full information of the way things are. And
the issue of bureaucracy before the fund could get to the farmers.
Oh, that is very common. Before this one is approved, that one is approved. The farmers start work in Southwest around March. April, rain have started. You are now approving money for maize around August, September. The farmer will collect the money from you now.
Why the
season is gone.
Okay.
He knows if he goes to plant, he's going to get into trouble. But he won't tell you I won't need the money. He will tell you I will use the money next year. In his mind, he won't tell you, because if he tells you he will use the money next year, you won't give him. Now he will collect the money with the mindset that, but you know, can you keep how much money for Amdong? So the money is eating. So most of this money, it's not that the farmers didn't want to use it. It's either it's coming too late, it's coming to a farmer that whatever program you have put together, you are giving a farmer maybe 225 or 250,000 or 300,000. Okay. That all the 300,000 you have given to him is just enough for him to bulldoze. Not tractorization. So, and it cannot bulldoze and be looking. Yeah. Because even to get the bulldozer to the farm, how many bulldozers do we have? Most of our bulldozers are better used for construction purpose, not for farming purpose. How many farmers can afford to pay 175,000 or 150,000 naira per day for a D8K or D8H? That's for a day.
Okay.
Apart from that, you buy almost about 200 liters of diesel. You know how much diesel is? How many farmers can afford that? You know, so the government should be intentional. The idea of giving money, I don't subscribe to giving money to farmers. I am more comfortable with helping farmers to have an environment to farm. Okay. Clear the forest. Let there be tractors available. Let us have what I call farm bank. This farm bank is not where farmer goes to collect money. Let there be equipment there. I've used bulldozer on your farm, and that bulldozer costs 300,000. Okay. You are owing the bank 300,000. I've used a tractor on your farm. It costs 100,000. You are owing the bank 100,000. I've given you seed, 50,000. You are owing the bank 50,000. Now, by the time you complete, I've given you fertilizer, all of them, their cost is in that bank. The seed company are partners with them. The fertilizer company are partners with them. Herbicide company are partners with them. Fungicide company are partners with them. All of these are cost. At the end of harvest, under the supervision of the extension worker, who will not allow the farmer to do anything less than complete agronomic practice. Because number also matters. In agropreneurship, numbers matter. Because if you don't work with numbers, then you are not going to have a target you are looking forward to. So numbers, you understand? So what hectare have I given is it the same population of maize that I ought to plant on 1 hectare that I planted? Don't tell me you planted 1 hectare. You are supposed to, maybe you are supposed to have about 10,000 stands of maize, and you barely plant 1,000, and say I have 1 hectare.
So how many stands?
How many stands? You have to be sure. These are some of the things agropreneurs take note of, because each stand is equal to money. So if I have 10,000 and I'm selling 1 naira, I don't have 10,000. But if on 1 hectare, if I have 1,000, I'm selling 1 naira, I'm going to have 1,000. At the end of the day, I've lost 9,000 because I didn't take note of number. So these are some of the trainings that the extension workers who are fully informed will carry on. So for a year, let all these individuals be under extension workers. Let all these facilities be available. Do you understand? Yeah. Not available to those who will mismanage it. You understand? I want to use the word mismanage because most of our program, wonderful program, have been sabotaged. Saboteurs are everywhere. Yeah. Because this is an emergency. Such that if we don't do something now, sir, 2030, it has been declared, the whole world is going to be confronted with famine. We're in 2023 now. Yeah. Nigeria is already declaring a state of emergency. But the question is, this is what we need to do. Because we tried it in our own place. Okay. We are deforesting. As we're deforesting, tractors are following the bulldozers. We did deforest 1 million hectares. And now, after we have finished deforesting 1 million hectares, we now want to go and take tractor. Before you finish 1 million hectares, the one you deforested have become forest again. Yeah, that's true. So as the bulldozer is clearing, those who are removing the stumps are removing the stumps. Tractors are plowing, harrowing, and rigging as the case may be, or planting as the case may be. So before you are done 50 hectares, you have already planted 45 hectares. You are following. You are following gradually, gradually, gradually. You will find out that in 1 year, in 1 year, you'll be amazed at the food that we'll be able to produce. The people are trained, but they are on-the-job trainees. They are not in classrooms. We can't teach people agriculture in classrooms. That's why our School of Agriculture have not been producing agronomists. Because you are telling them what should be known practically, theoretically.
Okay, so tell us about Moses...
Moses Green Life.
Okay, Moses Green Life.
Yes, all Moses Green Life is, thank God, is an initiative of their mommy Gio. Okay. We are doing on-the-job training. In fact, interestingly, the first set of people that were trained are now the one training other people. Okay. We had a partnership with Dizengov because we bought some greenhouses from them, and they gave us a good deal that if we buy a certain number, they are going to give us an agronomist. So we pull some of our youth under the agronomist. You know, the first set of people were about 35 under the agronomist. So they went through the process from plumbing to nursery production to... So they saw firsthand how this is done. So the period of 5 months, they were able to see from nursery to harvest. So as soon as they got that, we found out that now they have seen it, they've been part of it, we give them employment. So they are now producing. So beyond production, we now pull new set of people. So they are now, so we started with training the trainers. Now the trained are now training other people.
Okay.
So we expand our rising.
Okay, we are due for a break, but then when we come back from the break, we'll be looking at how can people join this training process, because a whole lot of our youths are there. Some of them employed, some of them underemployed, some of them are not even happy with what they are doing, and they want a new course. Probably choosing agriculture as a course, you know, for them could be something worthwhile. So we'll come back to look at that. Viewers, please stay tuned with us. We shall be back after this time out. Watch The Ambassadors on Dove Television as we take you through the rudiments and fundamentals of politics and good governance, and how you can be involved. The Ambassadors is showing every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Nigerian time. Welcome back. It is still The Ambassadors on Dove Television, and we've been looking at the issue of food security in Nigeria in extension to the world. But I think Nigeria is more of concern to us than any other part of the world. But then food has a way of making itself a chain, because an injury to one, I think, is an injury to all. So food security in Nigeria could as well extend to other countries. I mean, gone are the days where Nigeria, the only export material for Nigeria was agri-product, you know, before the advent of crude oil. And crude oil came and shipped away the attention of our government, of our leaders, from agriculture. Now we are returning to it right now. So quickly, before we went on a break, we were talking about the training arm of redeemed program on agriculture. So how can our youth be part of this? Anyone watching us now that want to be part of this training, how can they go about it?
Actually, what we've been doing is we do them in batches.
Okay.
Right now, there's another batch going on. It's a 3-month. Initially, we started with 5 months.
Okay.
We have an hostel accommodation that can only take maximum of 50.
Okay.
So in that place, it's like, we call it a boot camp.
Okay.
Agropreneur boot camp.
Okay.
Now, they are going to be there for 3 months. It's on a farm settlement, somewhere in Osun State, if I were precisely.
Okay.
Now, they are there, and we give them the facility, to the glory of God, with the support and the love of our mommy. Those guys are being fed twice in a day free.
Okay. Throughout the period
Throughout the period,
3
we
months.
accommodate them for free.
Okay.
We feed them for free. But they work themselves. They work the sweat. Because we've told them, when you're in this camp, you come to learn practically. Yeah. We hardly go to classroom. The farm is a classroom. So it's when we're working that we stop at the time to talk to ourselves. You get your hands dirty and get to work. You know, so what we're trying to do, in the real sense of it, is to start from there and see how we can extend that to other parts of the country, because the facility is not enough to accommodate so many people. But we can have it in so many other places. But where we are now, the one we started this July, we are going to be ending that by, we started this July, August, September. By October, we're starting another 3 months. Okay. You know, and what we do is all year-round agriculture. We don't depend on the rain. We are into irrigation all through. We do drip line irrigation, both, and we do mulching. We do mulching. We make sure that some of the challenges of our fathers, weed and all of that, we try to use mulch films to prevent ourselves from doing so much of weeding. Even though, so the weeding you do is very, very, you know, most young people who have gone to school don't want to hold cutlasses, especially when they find out that cutlasses have the way of creating blisters in their hand. Yes. But a lot of us have gotten used to that. The hand has removed, the thing has healed up, and the hand is strong now to hold cutlasses, you know. But we don't want to put people through what we've gone through. We just found out that there's a way you can make things easier for those who are coming behind, you know, and that's what we're trying to do. That, okay, if they can get to know. So the idea of this training is knowing how to. People fail, not because they want to fail, because they don't know how to succeed. So when you know how to succeed, it will be easy for you to replicate that knowledge anywhere you go. So it's a training that is open to as many people as possible. At the beginning, we use our platform, Young Adult and Youth Affairs, we use our platform to advertise, to tell people. And we actually expect those who are interested to come, because it can be stretchy. You know, a lot of people who doesn't like the sun must learn to stay under the sun, because you can't be a farmer without being under the sun. Okay. You know, that's why when we were on our camp during our youth service, under the sun and in the rain, with dedication and selflessness, farming is where that is real. You are under the sun, you are under the rain. But you know, like the adage of the Yoruba says, whoever run away from the sun, whoever run away from the rain will end up becoming a victim of hunger. You understand? So if you stay under the sun, you stay under the rain, you can't be hungry. You understand? Especially when you're even producing food.
Yes,
you know?
Yes,
so that's what the program is all about. Okay. And we're not stopping that program. We've done about 3 sessions in the last 1 year. Okay. We've done 3 sessions. This is the 3rd session. And we're still moving on.
All right. So, is there any hand-on or a low-hanging fruits that government, you know, declaring a state of emergency is not enough? In fact, they declared it, backed it up with about 50 billion naira or so, or more, or 500 billion naira to pump into agriculture. But what are the low-hanging fruits? Something they need to start, you know, to just hit the ground running right now, that in the next month, 6 months, we can start feeling the impact of government, you know, as concerning agriculture.
Like I said, sir, if we are going to be very, very, very sincere with ourselves, looking at the Southwest should be the concern of the federal government as far as agriculture is concerned. Now,
why not North?
Now, North, as I speak to you, let me use the word, oversaturate their land area. Okay. They have to do a whole lot of fertilization to get the same results they were getting before. Okay. But you see, in the Southwest, remember, I'm not sure I was alive at that time when Awolowo was the prime minister, the Southwestern Nigeria. Okay. We learned, we had. In fact, there was a time I went to collect cocoa pod. Okay. During the time of Jonathan administration, when the issue of cocoa revolution came on board. Ondo State was part of the state that was used as the medium for distribution of cocoa seed. Okay. So I was in the director's office, and he was telling me, he said, do you know the cocoa that they were getting the seed that was being given to the farmers to plant? That cocoa was planted by Awolowo.
Oh, really?
And he said, his word, that after that government, that was almost about 50-something years ago, the other people have not been planting. So what they now went to do is they now began to improve on the seedling that Awolowo planted.
Oh, wow.
Now, this is Southwest. Why can't we deforest and say, okay, you know, there are different crops. There are some that are meant for immediate attention, immediate need of the people, like the annual crops, like maize, like beans. All of them are about 90 days. Meaning that we can saturate the whole of Southwest with maize in 3 months, with beans in 3 months, with rice in 3 months. And you know, you will be shocked to realize that there is no crop that is growing in the north that cannot grow here. We've grown honey beans in here.
Even on the onions.
We grow onions on this redemption camp. We've grown beans on this redemption camp. There is nothing growing in the north that is not growing. In fact, it has been discovered that we have more land, more nutritious land in Southwest, more than the north. That's why you see all those big trees. How many of those big trees do you see in the north? If you see big trees growing somewhere, that means there's nutrient to support that growth. You understand? But we don't need big trees. We can't eat trees. We want to eat fruit. Let the federal government be intentional about removing all this forest in the Southwest. Let us be intentional about encouraging our youth. Many of them are interested. I've had to talk with 1 or 2 of them. They always talk about the issue of fund. But I know it's not the issue of fund. It's issue of knowledge. It's issue of platform. It's issue of support.
And probably an issue of time.
And
because
time.
Agriculture, you know, it's...
When you are doing mesa, in 90 days you are good. You are doing beans in 90 days.
90 days.
90 days, 3 months.
Planted, harvested.
Back to back. The whole gestation period is 3 months. You do tomatoes in 80 days. If it's determinate, 80 days, his life cycle is over. Pepper, in about 2 months, you harvest it for another 6-7 months. But if it's cash crop, we sectionalized. You guys, you are going to do cash crop. in 2018, I just took a decision that in 10 years I want to plant cocoa.
Okay.
So I got to see that's why I got involved with Cocoa Revolution. Okay. And I remember a friend of mine was asking me, this cocoa you are trying to do, because at that time I was trying to get fund. You know, it was like, so how many years will you start producing? I said, well, that in about 3 years, because it's hybrid, we'll start flowering. So from the 4th year, I will start harvesting. Okay. And he looked at me and said, you are going to wait for 4 years for this, when there are investments that can... So I found out that another problem we have, which was the Nigerian problem, okay, is that we have not, the culture of patience, the virtue of patience, don't let me say culture, the virtue of patience is fast eroding in our society. Our fathers wait for 9 years for this cocoa to start blooming. Now, hybrid have come, 3 years, just wait 3 years to harvest cocoa for 90 years.
Yeah. Even there are palm trees right now that are not even growing as tall or as...
Malaysian breed, dwarf. They call them Malaysian dwarf.
Okay.
In 3 years, by the 4th year, you are good to go. And one generation cannot finish harvesting. You will eat, harvest, your children will harvest. Meaning that all these things you are going to wait for 4 or 5 years to see fruit on, you are going to harvest it for 90 years. Who says Nigeria cannot become the foremost in cocoa production in the next 4 years? Because in the next 4 years, we can decide to target. I told the agropreneur talks about number. You can say, okay, government can say, I want you guys to plant for me 10 million stands of cocoa. Okay. Established in the next 4 years. I'm saying 4 years because of this present administration. 4 years. Meaning that each year, you are going to do 2.5 million. Oh, it's not too late. We're just going into dry season. This dry season, you guys do 5 million seedlings. Go out to the seed farms. Produce 5 million seedlings. By next year, the land is prepared. The place is ready. We plant. Then be watching it. By next year again, do another nursery. Sir, in 4 years, the one you planted last year, or next year, which is 2024, will have started flowering. Because the one you... So when it starts flowering, that means the next year you start harvesting. The following year, the one that you planted a year after will start producing. Before you know it, in 8 years, you'll be amazed. It's just that we are not putting time to agriculture. We are forgetting that agriculture has to do with times and season. You understand? Yeah. And another thing that I want us to also be aware of all the professions in the world, there is only one profession that God himself handed over to man. Yeah. And I think if we think deeply about it, we'll know that every man is a natural agriculturist. God planted the first farm. He planted a garden eastward in Eden. There he put the man he had created to dress
the land.
And no, God tilled the land, sir.
God himself.
Yes, he tilled the land. He planted.
Okay.
He put the seed on ground. He put the man to dress and keep. Meaning that all the seed you see in the world was first planted by God. Yeah. And do you know why? If you look at the way he did it, and that's why man has to begin to think like God. Okay. He planted the garden before he created the man. Because by the time the man came, the garden was already fruiting. Why? God knew that man must be sustained by food. So the food was made available before the man came on board. Now man came on board from the fruit of what God planted. Yeah. Inside the fruit are seeds. So it was the seed inside that is now the responsibility of man to multiply. Now look at us as a nation. God gave us fruit. We have seed. What are we doing with the seed? We are not intentional about putting the seed back to the ground.
I think this program also speaks to the citizen, not only focusing on leaders alone. Yeah. Now let's go into the side of the citizens right now, because there are two sides to every coin, yes, the leadership and the followership. So looking at the citizenship, now, do we have enough orientation? And this is perhaps to call out our National Orientation Agency. I don't know whether that agency is still working or has been, has been in comatose. Please, we need to start an orientation that would drive attention to farming and agriculture, as the case may be, and general well-being, probably into the area of, developing some virtues in the mind of our, of our citizens. So let's look at orientation and patriotism, or, an orientation and patriotism.
I think our citizens have some level of orientation, but it's just that What I think is the challenge is procrastination. And I'll tell you what I mean by that.
All right.
Last year, a senior fellow was in a discussion with me. And he got to know I had cocoa farm. He asked me a question. He said, did you inherit it from your father? I said, my father was never a farmer. My father was a banker, though he was raised by a farmer. My mother was a teacher. I was not even raised on the farm. He said, you have a farm? You have a cocoa farm? I said, yes. How old are you? At that time, last year, I was about 48.
Wow.
I said, 48. He said, I have always wanted to have cocoa farm.
Wow.
And I smiled. Sir, that was not the first man I've had that from. But do you know what many of them always say that gets me worried? Okay. They push their interest in farming to retirement. Farming to many of our senior citizens is a retirement plan. And farming should not be a retirement plan. Farming should be when you are in your youth, when you have the strength to wait. Somebody retires at 65. He wants to go into cocoa plantation.
But how would he be able to manage it? Busy with his secular assignments and all that?
And that's why it cannot be a side business. It has to be a full-time business.
Okay.
Farming shouldn't be a side business. Our fathers, it's just that many of them who were raised by farmers, they didn't like the kind of life they lived. They had all the food, but they didn't really have all the fun they wanted. But I was jokingly telling somebody, I said, you said your father was not rich, you know, as a farmer. But your father succeeded in marrying 10 wives and over 20 children.
And he wasn't rich.
And he wasn't rich.
That must be a very rich man, man.
And if you see some of the farms this father did, but why many of them didn't like it was that they were being used as laborers. Okay. You know, they were the one that does all the spraying of the cocoa, does all the dirty work. So they just felt that, no, I can't live my life like this. So an escape away from the home is an escape from the farm. You understand? Yeah. So many of them didn't want to come back into it, but farming, you know, we've had this in our adage, in the experience of those who have gone into the Western world. Okay. The richest set of people in America are farmers. Now, farmers are using drones to do precision spraying on their farm. Drones. They use helicopters to spray their farms. When I look at Oma Jeep and some of the Jeeps with all those big tires, they are not for the road, they are for farmers. A friend of mine sent a picture to me. A farmer was using a G-Wagon to carry A for his cow. He was loading A in a G-Wagon. And I started laughing. I said,
that's a luxury car. I said,
G-Wagon with A for cow. Because these guys are making money. And in our adage, in the Southwest, we say the farmer is the king. Yeah. Agbeloba. Now, if somebody says the farmer is the king, you know a king. That means he has authority. He has power. Do you know why? Whoever feeds has control.
Over whoever is feeding.
Over whoever is feeding. That was why Pharaoh, Egypt, and Joseph became the most powerful in those days, because the world were coming to Egypt to get food. Eventually, when they sold all their land and there was no more land to sell, they came and they said, we hand ourselves to you. We should not be. Say, okay, if you don't have land to sell, I will take custody, so you'll be working for me. Now, we see all this. They are historically documented. Yeah. And may I say this, sir? The future, I don't want to use future, the glory of Africa and Nigeria is to realize that our responsibility to the world is to feed the world. Let me tell you this, because this is no news. As many as those who have some level of thinking will know that Nigeria has been the one feeding the Western world, has been the one feeding Europe, has been the one feeding Asia. Now we're struggling to get Gary now. The Asian doesn't know the color of the leaves of cassava. But they are right here in Nigeria moving our cassava in massive quantity to their country.
No wonder there is a shortage of Gary.
The Gary, what is not sufficient for us to eat. So we are producing not enough for ourselves, but so what the problem now is what is supposed to be enough for them is not enough for them. So the Western world, the Europe and Asia, they are only getting little from us because it's little we are producing. And I keep saying to myself, why don't they support us? They have so many programs they are saying they are using to support us, but how many of those programs are getting to those who really want to do this thing? You understand? Yeah. Is it not being politicized? Because when you look at something that is meant to be an encouragement to all, and it's being politicized, the purpose has been defeated.
Definitely.
And when the purpose is being defeated, that means you won't get the result. Let's come to face reality. It's a curative measure that we want to put into this thing now.
Okay.
The deed has been done, but it's still, it can still be amended. It's not utterly bad. But we can quickly come in. Reactive measure, fine. Somebody like me, I prefer a proactive measure to reactive measure. Yeah. You know, I prefer preventive measure to curative. Because the damage has been done before you want to cure it. But now we can't talk about proactive now because we've not been proactive. It is staring us to the face now. But we have to be careful. In reactive, you need to be careful so that you will not end up wasting your energy. Because in trying to cure, you'll be running helter-skelter, you'll be under pressure. And most of the time, you make more mistakes when you are anxious to get results. We need to come to the table, get people who understand what it means. The government, look at the banks, sir. For many years, I had some level of training in the banking sector. I was not just cut out for banking. Okay. Banks, most of the time, at the end of the year, return the money they are meant to give to farmers back to CBN. Do you know why? Most of the bad debt they have is from farming. They give money to a poultry farmer, he comes and he says a flu just came and all the money gone. You can't kill him. Give money to a fish farmer, he says he stocked 10,000. He didn't know what happened. No, snake has eaten all of that. Oh, he didn't know the feed he bought. Oh, he has killed all of the fish. Oh, whatever. What do you do? In fact, when you as a banker wants to go and check a fish farm, and you are looking at water, how do you want to know? How do you know the number of fishes there? So they conclude that I think this is not a good way to go. That's why government should be the one that will stand for farmers. Now,
if I may ask you, very personal now, how are you doing it? Because now, okay, I need to let our viewers know that we are doing this recording on a day that convention is about, about 3 days or 4 days. We are about 3 days or 4 days to convention as we are recording right now. And I know you are the one supplying the rice, the gari, the what again? For vegetables, the tomatoes, the peppers, even for the convention where thousands, are going to eat. You are into fish farming, you are into poultry, you are into all of these, even cash crops, food crops. How are you managing it? Probably a farmer somewhere watching can learn something from you.
I want to thank God for His grace. Somebody said, if you say grace of God, tell me. Don't just say grace.
Don't just say grace.
but you see, I want to ascribe all of them to the grace of God and to process. Okay. I have been opportune by God to go through a process that I found out that is practicable. Okay. Though you need to have another spirit to go through it. I told you I started 1998, I was in school. I was not getting funds from anywhere. In fact, most of the stuff, I was doing it on my own. Okay. But I understood that the seed of everything in life starts as a seed. And the journey of every man's life starts as a seed. In fact, I used to say when I'm preaching that when we started our life, we could not even be detected by microscope. Scan could not detect us. How they knew we were inside our mother was the change in the blood, in the urine of the woman. That's why they use urine test to check whether a woman is pregnant. You understand? So we were so small. So I said, okay, let me start small. So I started and was pushing. Because I know what gives life to everything is effort, commitment, and dedication.
I think I've known you over years right now. One thing I can learn from you is your consistency. Because each time, let's say we meet every year, maybe once every year, each time we meet, you always talk to me about agriculture. Yeah. And your consistency in that field has really, probably could be a plus.
Yeah, that's the strategy that I found out. I have to, you see, at a point when I was dragging on, I found out that I was meeting individuals who started showing interest in what I was doing. Okay. You know, I have found out that in life, there are people who will come at every junction to support your vision when they know you are committed to what you're doing. Somebody asked me, Pastor, you have enjoyed support and encouragement from people. Are you willing to invest in businesses that some startups are doing? I said what somebody said to me years ago to him.
Okay.
The man said, Pastor, I don't invest in business, I invest in people. And I said, I don't understand what you mean. Yeah. He said, when I see someone who is passionate and committed to whatever he is doing, I know come come rain, come shine, come trouble, come challenges, he's going to weather through. Meaning that businesses can fail, but a passionate man will continue to move on. I've had instances, I've had my fingers burnt. I remember there was a time somebody supported me. Thank God he believed in me. Thank God he invested in me. Okay. At that time, we've not gotten to the point of being able to get our own property. Okay. So I leased a farm that has been used over the years. Of course, I demodded. The silting is removing all the mud because it was an earthen pond. Okay. You know, remove all the mud. I thought I've done a good work. And I put my fingerlings in the pond and I started feeding. I did not know that in the process of removing the mud, there were some old fishes that were hiding inside the mud. Oh. So I was just putting food inside the water.
Not knowing that those old fishes...
they are not coming to eat. They were eating the smaller ones.
Wow.
So in a place I stocked 5,000, I barely got 800. Wow. You know, I was already doing my calculations. That, okay, by the end of it, by the time I got the fishes I got, sir, I couldn't even recover 25% of the investment. Wow. But thank God, the person looked at me and he said something. He said, I saw your commitment and dedication. So I know you wouldn't want this to happen to you. But you see, the issue is I couldn't go back to him to tell him, give me money to do another one. So my wife asked me, what do you want to do? Thank God for my wife. I said, I'm going to restock. And she looked at me, how will you feed them? I said, don't worry. I have learned in life that failure is not final if you don't allow it to be final. Yeah. So I went and bought another 4,000 and put it inside the water. The money I had could only buy the fingerlings. But you know, in the process of trying to just, and then I'll go to Abattoir, those as I had for. Yeah. But do you know, within that period, help came. Before you know what was happening, we got our first 20 acres of land. Right 2 months after that event, how God favored. So I now realize that capacity development is what challenges of life is pushing at us. When you are being stressed, it's so that you can be strengthened. When you are being pressurized, it's to push you into your own pleasurable moment. But when you are stressed and you withdraw, you will deprive yourself of the opportunity of strength.
God bless you. I think we need to wrap it up there as our time has been, fast spent on the program. But then we want to thank you, Pastor Alex, Tapere. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate you and all that you are doing. So your final word. I'd like you to look into the camera and speak to somebody, as concerning all this in a final thought.
All right. I just want to tell you about Asia. They were actually looking at reducing their population because they couldn't feed themselves. But a time came, they decided to take the bull by the horn. Every single household in China began to produce one kind of food or the other. Even the senior citizens were not left out. As soon as every individual began to produce food, yes, constant support of the government, but they had a will to do something. As soon as they started producing food and they began to eat, their innovative and creative tendencies began to come alive. After they were able to feed themselves, see what they are doing all over the world now. They can come up with creativities, inventions, and they are pulling resources from all over the world. I want to believe that if we also, as individuals, can take it upon ourselves, at the back of our house, you might have had all of those places cemented, but with some sacks, you can put some yam in those sacks and put some sand there. Put sand and put sack. Put sand, put some stems of yam there. You can do tomatoes. You can do plastic and put fish inside. You can do snail. When food is out of the need of a man, poverty is far from such a man.
Thank you so much, Pastor Alex Tapere. God bless you. We appreciate your time. Yeah, talking about sand in sack and some yam inside it. My wife is having about 20-something stands in sack of yam. Kudos to my wife. God bless you, viewers. We appreciate you. I'm Mike Adekunle. Please, I see you again next time on The Ambassadors. Bye-bye for now.